Penniston took photos with his military-issue camera.
The craft was triangular in shape and measured probably 9 feet wide by about 8 feet high. I couldn't tell the front or back to it. I mean, there was no engines on one side or no cockpit or nothing like that. It was all completely smooth, the outside of the craft.
He then circled the object, writing descriptions in a notepad. These are the notes he wrote that night.
Surface is unknown. Identity unknown. No apparent landing gear present. No sound, but appears to be operating somehow.
Penniston's handwriting deteriorated as he got closer to the craft.
I was really having problems with the type of craft. I keep saying it's unknown. I have a problem with understanding what I'm recording here.
Finally, he reached out to touch the object.
The fabric of the craft was smooth, like glass. It was warm to the touch, but not hot. There wasn't like lights on it. Somehow it was in the fabric of the craft.
On the front side of the object, Penniston noticed several strange symbols. He copied them into his notebook.
They were like markings, not numbers, not language. There were several, maybe 6 symbols, measuring 3 feet wide. I wasn't trained for what I was experiencing.
Suddenly, the object emitted a blinding flash of light. The men took cover.
Then the object, whatever it was, lifted up, went up, and then moved back away over the trees.
The speed of the craft leaving the area was, the best way to describe it is probably in a blink of an eye. I've never seen any craft move that fast in my entire Air Force career, and I don't think I ever will again.
As the men slowly got to their feet, their attention was drawn by another flash of light through the trees. At first, they assumed it was the craft, but on second glance, they realized that it was the Orford Ness Lighthouse, 5 miles away. Burroughs and Penniston checked their radios. They were working again. It was now around 5 a.m., roughly 2 hours since they'd first spotted the mysterious lights in the woods. They contacted the CSC, and their commander ordered them to rendezvous with a security team back at the East Gate.
So we were like, what are we going to say? We can't explain what we saw. We can't explain what just happened.
Later that morning, the men were brought in for debriefing. Penniston was reluctant to divulge everything he'd witnessed.
It was not a good career move to report exactly what we seen. I went into the shift commander's office with Burroughs, and we gave a sanitized briefing of what happened that night.
After the debriefing, Penniston said the shift commander had given him a thinly veiled warning.
Gentlemen, he says, Project Blue Book ended in 1969, and sometimes things are best left alone.
Project Blue Book was the code name for the U.S. Air Force's controversial UFO investigation unit.
During the course of our investigation, we have talked to numerous people.
Before it was disbanded, its task had been to determine whether UFOs were a potential threat to national security. Despite his commander's warning, Sergeant Penniston couldn't put the strange encounter out of his mind.
I got back to my house and I couldn't go to sleep. I'd probably sat around the house for maybe 2 or 3 hours. And finally I said, well, I got to go back out there.
He returned to the site with some plaster of Paris to make casts of any indentations left by the craft.
I wasn't going to leave there until I had answers. I wanted something tangible.
He spotted 3 round impressions in a symmetrical pattern on the ground. They were a few inches deep and roughly 10 feet apart.
They measured exactly the same distance apart, each of the pods, approximately 2 to 3 inches thick.
These are the casts made by Penniston the morning after his sighting. He believes they show the marks left by the craft when it landed on the forest floor. He decided not to show them to his superiors. Along with his notes and roll of film, the sergeant now had the 3 plaster molds to back up his story. But Peniston's physical evidence didn't solve the mystery of Rendlesham. Just 2 nights later, the UFO returned. And this time, the deputy base commander made a chilling record of his own encounter.
I'm observing what appears to be a beam coming out of the ground. This is